It's really interesting to see the change in how RCAF Station North Bay, CFB North Bay 22 Wing has evolved with how the military and the Canadian defence strategy has changed as a whole since the earlier years of the Cold War.
In 1920, a year after the Air Board was formed, the Canadian government decided that what we're going to do is we're going to show Canada what airplanes can do. We're going to have airplanes fly across the country from Nova Scotia across to Vancouver to show that it is feasible. We're talking about an age when, in the United States, for instance, 1920, the 1 out of every 6 pilots flying the mail in the United States were killed in crashes. So it was a dangerous, very dangerous thing to happen. The point being is that the Canadian Air Force flew the first half of the leg out to Winnipeg. The Canadian government, so-called civilian side of the government, flew the rest of the way. And part of the flight from Ottawa to Sault Ste. Marie happened over North Bay. An airplane, a flying boat, imagine a giant boat with wings, able to take off and land on the water, were flown by a Canadian Air Force crew. They dropped a message at the CB station downtown. They said, you know, we really should think about North Bay as a place to operate out of. More government aircraft began to show up, 1921, 1922, and so on, with Air Force, Canadian Air Force, and later Royal Canadian Air Force people. They didn't actually begin to arrive till 1930, when the first Royal Canadian Air Force airplanes actually landed in North Bay at Trout Lake, and we're heading out west. We were a crossroads of the country. The Air Force used this exactly for that.
In the Second World War, there was a military presence here in North Bay, albeit it wasn't technically Royal Canadian Air Force at that time. It was a Royal Air Force Ferry Command training location here, which was actually one of the reasons why they selected North Bay to be home of one of the fighter bases as they were setting them up in the early Cold War.
And so they, in 1950, an order in council was, the Minister of National Defense said, can we build an air base in North Bay? And the government said yes. And in 1951, that's where they began construction of the air base that we have today.
We were a bunch of rabble-rousers, not anything particularly destructive. You know, we were a bunch of 20-year-olds. I can remember many times we'd try and sneak up to the air base before they could see us. We'd come down Trout Lake, like probably about 15 to 20 feet off the water, and up over the hill where the other entrance is to the hole. And we usually had a bet on with the tower controllers because they were members of the officers' mess too. So the bet was usually we could get to the end of the runway before they could see us. A bunch of single guys rented a cottage on Trout Lake. And I can remember one time, I forget who was flying, it wasn't me, we were with our day off. And standing on the end of our dock, which was maybe about 3 feet off the water, just about looking straight into the cockpit as they went by.